This is the Lightning Junkies podcast with your host, Chaz Kriptode. On this electrifying episode of the podcast, we have Zach from Kriptode. Kriptode is a catalog of Lightning apps that includes BitAlarm, XLM for LN, Sats for Likes, and others. We talk about Zach's various apps as well as developing on Lightning and much more. Before we get to this episode of the podcast that gives you your Bitcoin Lightning fix, I wanted to remind you about my crowdfunding campaign. Go to crowdfund.lightningjunkies.net if you want to chip in Bitcoin or Bitcoin over the Lightning Network. You can also tip me on tipping.me, Bottlepay, and LNCast. Those links are in the show notes. All that being said, let's go ahead and jump into the 14th episode of the Lightning Junkies podcast. I would like to go ahead and welcome Zach to the Lightning Junkies podcast. How are you doing tonight, Zach?
I'm doing all right, thanks. Happy to be here.
Fantastic. All right, let's go ahead and jump into your background. I would love to kind of know how you, even before got into Bitcoin, what's your general background?
Right. So, well, I've been a network engineer for about now 12, 13 years. So that's my background. I studied electrical and electronics engineering, and I worked for a large, let's say, network communications company for during my career, and I still do. So, yeah.
Got it. And how exactly did you end up falling into Bitcoin?
Well, I think it was around, end of 2012, 2013. I read this article in a Turkish newspaper, which is where I lived at the time. And I was really fascinated. I'm always looking for new things, and I'm sort of what they call early adopter. So I always look for this kind of interesting things, and I read about it. And the more I read, of course, the more I got pulled in, and I just sort of jumped on it, and I said, let's I'll just buy some, and then I'll start reading, I'll start researching it, and I guess that's how I got started.
Okay, was there anything in particular that pulled you in?
Well, yeah. It's just there were so many questions that I was wondering, as like how does it work, why does it work, where did it come from, and because you have all these your preconceived notions about money and how things work. And at that time I was basically just traveling the world and going from project to project, and I was mainly doing it for money, right? So, and then you realize that all this money that I'm after, it's not what I think it is, and it's completely something else. So yeah, you start thinking about it and you start reading about it, and then I actually bumped into that little price spike during that time, I think 2013. And then that's where it really hit me that, okay, there's a financial opportunity here, and then there's a huge trove of technical information here, interesting things. So yeah, ever since then I kept reading.
Okay, and would you say that the economic side was more interesting, or was it more of the technology side that gripped you, or was it both?
Yeah, it's definitely a technology for me, because I didn't know. Even right now I don't know a lot about economy, ever since then actually I can say I read more about economy and the philosophy of things, because that part was where I was lacking, or where I didn't have any idea about it. But originally I got hooked on the technological side and this cryptography, because in my daily work, right, I used to I work with general public cryptography, and like all these HTTPS and VPNs, all of these things that I use daily in my day-to-day work, and to have to see them apply to money and in an interesting fashion, it was totally new for me, and fascinating.
All right. So I think a lot of people would probably know you best from your different Lightning apps. But before we get into all that, did you develop any kind of Bitcoin app, or did you mess around with any of that stuff at all?
I did not. I developed, I think, even before that. So in maybe 2011 or so, I developed a bunch of Android apps, but not related to anything, just like regular, some app that you could find nearby taxi stations, for example, stuff like that. So just random apps that, and I did that, of course, on my own time as a hobby, just to see how it works, type of thing. So I did that. But regarding no Bitcoin, I didn't really develop any websites or apps until Lightning came along, and I realized, okay, this is really interesting stuff.
Okay, so how did things look when Lightning came into the picture? Did you jump into it right away, or did it take you a minute to get into that portion of it all?
I think I saw, maybe it was async. I don't know if I say that right, but yeah, async's Strike API, which they basically had just an API that you could call, and you could just I was always on testnet. I think with the very first implementations came out, like very beta. I figured, I feel like I sort of missed the Bitcoin boat with the developing on Bitcoin. I missed that, and I watched it. I sort of heard about it, I read about it, but I didn't develop anything. And when I first saw that Lightning implementations were coming out, and all these cool new proof of concept things were popping up with Strike from Async and LND and the very very first release, I figured I should get on this, and I should see how it works, try to develop something. So yeah, that's where I sort of jumped in, and again, my background is not web development or app development. This is just things that I do as a hobby. But it's been a lot of fun, and the reactions have been great as well. So yeah, I enjoy doing this on like pretty much in all my spare time. I work on this kind of stuff.
Okay, so the overall umbrella name for all of these projects, if I'm correct, is called Kriptode. Is that right?
That's right. Yeah, Kriptode. And I'll tell you about why it's called Kriptode, because I think I recently took a look at like I don't even remember when I started doing these things. End of 2018, or maybe like September or October 2000. I don't remember exactly. I just figured the best way for me to develop something as a proof of concept would be I'll just come up with point of sale app. Right, so I figured, I'll develop a point of sale app, and I'll try to pitch it to, local businesses where I live, and I'll try to, explain to them how cool Lightning is and how cool Bitcoin is, and they should use it and they should accept payments with it. And of course, this is naive. I understand that, but that's sort of what I was thinking at the time. And it's Kriptode. It means pay with crypto. So it's crypto. I mean, I didn't even put obviously too much thought into it, so I just call it Kriptode, which means pay in crypto. But yeah, that's why I have that domain, and I figured I'll just keep it, because usually what happens, I think this will be familiar to other web devs or app devs, I guess, it's that you just buy a domain for each of your projects and you never ever launch them. You just have the domain and you have a silly landing website, and you leave it at that. But yeah, for me at least, I figured, I actually developed that site, by the way, and I developed an Android app that you could, it was fully custodial, obviously, that you could like enter products into the app. And then you could like take a picture of whatever you have, like, nearby you have a cup, and you'll take a picture of the cup. It's like a Let Go. I think that's familiar to most people, or eBay. So you take a picture of the app and you put the price in, however many dollars, it will convert automatically, and then you would post it to the app. So that would be like an online marketplace on Lightning, right? So that was the very first app I developed, and it was called Kriptode. So yeah.
Awesome. I appreciate you letting me know about that. So under the crypto catalog of apps, you've done quite a few. I think some of the ones that people might be more aware of is the one where you're dumping lumens for sats. How about you share what that one's about?
Yeah, so that's called XLM to LN. So I remember, yeah, Keybase, right? So everyone knows this already, but Keybase was supposed to do a airdrop. They called it Space Drop because it's stellar lumens, and the Stellar Foundation is apparently just dumping like $100 million to all Keybase users. And the thing about this, they call it space, crypto space, so double quotes, is that it's all these great things that are happening on Bitcoin and Lightning. They're sort of very small sized operations that are very efficient and very with realistic goals that actually deliver value, and we have all these cool things. And then on the other side of the medallion, we call it, right? So all these shitcoins and related things have huge amount of funding, huge amount of money to throw away. They don't know what to do with it. They throw huge conferences on all these things. And similarly with this space job, obviously they are funded somehow by a lot of people, and they are just they want to give this money away. And I spent a huge amount of my personal time thinking about how to onboard people to Lightning and Bitcoin, and how to spread this awesome thing that we have. Cool opportunity at this point in history, right, to do these things. Of course, there are really great companies and great fundings, and it's growing, and it's getting better for people that are actually working on these things professionally. I get that. To summarize, so I heard that they were doing this huge airdrop, and I figured this is the best way to onboard people, that they can just get rid of their shit coins and they can get on to Lightning, and we can do this thing.
Got it. Just to clarify, it might be kind of obvious from the name, but it's just a way for users to dump their lumens they might get from Keybase, getting Bitcoin on the Lightning network. I'm assuming you're doing this more manually on the back end.
Sort of manual, because I've been burnt before, right? So I have all these apps, but the problem is I don't have such a web development background, so I'm sort of relaxed on the security side of things. So I just sort of put it together in my spare time, and I just bring all my apps live, and then I worry about them later. So what I do is I try to keep very low liquidity on my hot wallet, so I run out pretty quick. But other than that, it's automated. So as soon as you dump your you decide how many lumens you want to dump, you enter the amounts, and then you hit exchange, and then you also enter your Lightning invoice. And then as soon as you send the lumens, my backend tracks the Stellar blockchain for that payment with that specific memo, and then it will pay the Lightning invoice automatically. So that's sort of how it works. But I run out of liquidity, so I sort of top up my hot wallets every once in a while, and if there's a problem, people contact me, and I take care of it manually.
Do you think this app and maybe any of the other apps generate enough for you to have like beer money, or is it more than that?
It's not more than that, I can tell you. Definitely, it's as I call it on my website, Kriptode.com. That was the thing that I came up with, and some people noticed it, and I think it's cool that they noticed it. I call it the headline on my website is just building things with Lightning for fun and micro profit. So it's very small amount of profit that I make, but it's basically, it doesn't even cover my time, of course, if I wanted to do it professionally. But yeah, it's fun for me, and I do stack some sets on the side, which is kind of nice. Yeah.
Okay, let's go ahead and talk about a couple of the other apps here that are pretty interesting. One that I think might be pretty recognizable is BitAlarm. Do you want to tell the listeners about that one?
Oh yeah, BitAlarm. So BitAlarm is an Android app. This the idea actually belongs to it's from Twitter. So somebody said, if you could find the incentivized way so that I don't snooze my alarm right in the morning when I try to wake up. And I figured, yes, Lightning fixes this, or at least it can be built with Lightning. So I built this Android app that is basically an alarm clock. But what you do is you sort of stake some satoshis into the wallet, and you say, I will if I snooze, let's say 2 minutes, and I will donate 1 Satoshi per second to my favorite charity, right? So you can type in Tor project into the app, and you can set 1 Satoshi per second. And in the morning, if you snooze, it will start counting, and it will count until you close the alarm, shut the alarm and wake up. And the amount that's gathered in there, let's say 120 satoshis or 1,000 satoshis, is donated automatically via Tor project's Bottle wallet, right? So Bottle, it uses Bottle li API. So yeah, that's a sort of incentivized way to not snooze and wake up, otherwise you donate your satoshis. So yeah, that's the app.
Okay, and if I'm correct, the previous app that we mentioned, XLM2LN, also has a Bottlepay integration with your API. Is that right?
Yes, that is correct, and there's a reason for that. That's sort of a nice coincidence, right? So the first month that this happened, now we did November, and before that they did 2 months ago, September 15th, they dropped some 300 or I don't know something lumens to everyone, and I had not a lot but some issues with people having problems with liquidity for Lightning, right? Because people are just being onboarded and they don't know if they should open a channel, and they need to actually send some balance so that they have available incoming liquidity, and that's not obvious to some people, which is sort of the challenges of Lightning. But yeah, so they had this problem, and I figured I'll just use one of these custodial services. I contacted TipInMe developer, which is he's a really nice guy, and we've been in touch, and then Bottle as well. So I figured I'll just put integration with Bottle that people can just click, just pull their invoice from their social wallet immediately, and they can just withdraw there, right? So that will make it easier. They don't have to worry about it if they're not familiar with Lightning, or if they don't have an incoming capacity. So they can just one click and they can get the invoice from Bottle, and it will be paid automatically, right? So that sort of makes it easier for everyone.
Quick little sideline here. What's your general opinion of Bottlepay?
Bottlepay, I think they're doing good work. So I mean, it's sort of, I think in Bitcoin we're always cautious, and we should be. We're always sort of, I can speak for myself, I guess. We're always thinking adversarial, or we try to think, and we should, and that's the right approach. But when I see a project that have clear goals, clear approach, and their approach currently is that we're Bitcoin only, and we're trying to make simple tools to onboard the masses, right? So they're talking about their target is, I mean, maybe you can have an episode with them and discuss in detail, but their target is like onboarding 1 billion people over the next some 5 years, some year, right? So this is a nice goal, and this I think is a worthy goal, and they seem like they're focused, and they built a really high quality product that people use, and they're a very active community. So that's sort of my honest opinion, is that if they do good work, and if they're Bitcoin focused, Bitcoin only, then I have no reason to think anything bad about them. That's my approach.
Absolutely, yeah. I had the opportunity to meet Pete and Pete at the Lightning conference. Had some pretty good conversations with them, and yeah, they're very pragmatic and very understanding of the Bitcoin ethos, and I think they're making a pretty good product for what it is, given its nature. Let's go ahead and get back into the different apps you have to offer on Kriptode. Another app that I've used once or twice is Sats for Likes. Do you want to let the listeners know about that one?
Yes, so that's pretty much the most favorite or most popular app that I have, and that Sats for likes is a website that you can sort of post your tweet link, right? And you can offer people some sats in return of a like, a tweet, or a follow to your account. I've expanded it since to include YouTube videos or random link tasks, but the original idea was that you can get real likes and real followers for your social media, right? So that was the approach, and it works because, well, it's custodial, unfortunately. Hopefully I can, in the future, I can find a better approach to make it non-custodial. But you basically you create a task, and you load some sats, and you say I'll pay 100 sats for every like on my tweet. So you get exposure, you get likes on your tweets, and you pay people for that, and people can withdraw that immediately to their Lightning wallets. So yeah, that's the sats for likes. And I'll mention one more interesting thing. Someone actually bought the domain satsforlikes.com, and with the number 4 and the word 4, so satsforlikes.com, and just gave it to me. I didn't buy it, but yeah, now satsforlikes.com actually redirects to Kriptode.com/satsforlikes. So yeah, that was pretty cool.
That's nice of that person to randomly do that.
Yeah.
So I've definitely used Sats for Likes. I want to like it more, to be honest, but I feel like it's very easy to game it on some level. Like, for example, I found myself, retweeting something, getting the sats, and then unretweeting it. Like, I know that's kind of a dick move. I'll, cop to that. But I mean, I feel like that's very common of what, when I would pay into the system and try to have someone retweet one of my tweets or something, a lot of people would do the same thing. Maybe this is a bigger conversation about making a less gameable app, but do you have any thoughts on, just the state of the app and, how those things might be less than optimal?
That's absolutely correct, and that's a very bright way to phrase it. And I guess of course this is sort of again a proof of concept that showcases that you can pay people immediately and withdraw from Lightning immediately, and obviously you cannot find any real way to block people from unliking a tweet or unretweeting a tweet. So yeah, I don't honestly find any way to stop that anytime soon, but I can say again, which is our go-to answer, let's say, that market prices that, right? So now I always thought that this app would be like higher number of sats for likes, or at least like a follow should be maybe a higher number, like 1,000 sats or 10,000 sats or something like that, right? I mean, these are of course 10 cents and we're talking about $1, but in terms of, I always I think in terms of sats. But anyway, what I'm trying to say is that it's cheaper, right? So people sort of give that money and sort of forget. And the strange thing is, in the tests that I've made, and I've asked some people about their stats, about the engagement they get when they post a tweet on Sats for Likes, it's actually not that bad. I mean, when you compare the investment you make versus what you get out of it, so your reach, right? Because Twitter shows you these analytics and shows you what the view count for a tweet is, right? So when I compare that, compared to Twitter's own advertising platform, it's like 100 to 1. So it's actually quite efficient way to gain exposure and reach more people. But yeah, like you said, I mean, people can always, take their actions back on the Twitter platform or YouTube or whatever, and I don't see any, realistic way to stop that anytime soon. But of course, by the way, I'm always open to any ideas or to improve this or make it better, obviously.
All right, absolutely. Okay, I want to go ahead and move on here to like another app. I think it's actually not active anymore. It was an app called Balnr or something. I'm not sure how to say it out loud.
Yeah, that's Balnr. Yeah, that's Balancer, right? So it's just a short way to say Balancer, because I thought Balancer was too long. I don't know what I was thinking at the time, but yeah, it was an app that it was a custodial way to balance your Lightning channels, right? So you would basically send me, this is of course automated by my node at the time, but you would send me some satoshis from one of your from one of your full channels, and then you would give me the specific channel ID that you would like balanced, and my node will try to find a route that includes that sort of takes it from your side of the channel, and it would try to find a route that goes into that specific channel that you want. So this way, when people come online and they have these full channels with no liquidity on the incoming side, so they can just sort of pay an invoice and open up incoming liquidity, right? So that was the target for that. But then now, of course, we're at a very better state for these types of tools. Now we have submarine swaps. You can loop out now, and then we have really cool wallet developers working on great tools. Like BLW has this algorithm sort of circularly balances your channels and then sends a payment. So I mean, yeah, there are a lot of tools that people are developing. So I figured, that's too much of a hassle for me to maintain, and it was custodial and it was large amounts too, and I don't feel comfortable with handling large amounts custodially anyway. So I sort of shut that down.
Got it. So, do you think that the balancing channels portion of being responsible for a routing node is kind of done and easy at this moment, or is it still like very difficult to kind of figure out on the fly?
You mean to actually own and operate a routing node? I do think it's a lot of work, and I actually, because as I've said, my background is in network engineering, right? So I actually design IP networks as my profession. So I think routing part is very interesting. And I do think maintaining routing nodes is a lot of work. And then when you add in the complexity of maintaining channel balances, I think it's like you should spend time on it, and you should follow all these tools. Alex Bosworth, he has some tools for channel balancing. And then I remember using some Python scripts to try to balance my channels on C Lightning. So yeah, it's a lot of things that you need to stay on top of. And now LMB is using some different methods, right, to set the fees on his channels differently, right? So if it's unbalanced, you can set a lower fee, or if it's well balanced, you can set a higher fee. So there are a lot of approaches to this, and people are experimenting, and it's great. But I definitely think it's not straight. It's not like plug in your Lightning node and just let it sit there. And then I see people complaining on Reddit or social media that, oh, I'm not routing any payments. Well, because you're not maintaining your channels, and you're not working on being a better routing node, and you're not making sure all your channels are balanced. So this is all very hard work, and I see more and more that people's approach is like this will be like a professional thing to be a routing node, and a popular routing node that doesn't fail your payments, that somehow finds a way to deliver your payments. I do think in this way, and I think this will be the future of Lightning, right? So we'll have these professional routing nodes that are very cool, and very they'll have liquidity, and they'll have good routes, and yeah.
Okay, so I just wanted to take a quick step back here. So we've talked about a handful of the apps that you developed for Lightning. Do you want to maybe share some of the challenges in developing with Lightning in general, and just kind of give us a picture of what you had to go through?
But at first, when I first started, this was last year. Again, I mean, there was Strike, and it had an API at some point, but I also wanted to use my own node, right? So, the first part is, as we discussed earlier, which is the problem with maintaining liquidity and balancing your node. So if you're using your own node, then you also need to make sure you have all these things set up. Right, so that's the first part. And then for me, as a amateur developer, I would say that I had to develop these APIs and endpoints on my own, and I sort of made it from ground up, and that's I was just learning. So I guess that might be for me at that point. Now you have a number of payment processors like OpenNode or other ones, and you can deploy a BTC Pay server, and you can have your own API there. So it's the tools are actually a lot better at this stage. And then I think the most important thing that I overlooked, and I think some people also might overlook, especially if they don't have really cybersecurity or web development background, is again, security, right? So these things. I mean, I'm not talking about, by the way, Lightning security. This is more of a web app development security. So this is basically when you have an app that is a hot wallet sitting there, and it's a bunch of money, and people know that there's money in there. they will find a way to tweak things, and they'll find a way to poke your APIs and poke your web apps or Android apps, of course, or any mobile apps. That they'll try to find a way to find that hole and to get that money. So that's sort of, I think, one of the main things for people to consider, and what I had the most issues with. Other than that, the tooling has gotten a lot better. Like I said, you have plug and just develop payment processors now. But yeah, sort of. I would say the security part of it is the most interesting and most important, and perhaps most overlooked things. And I for example, there's, I think, I don't know his name, but Igor from, I think, Blue Wallet. He had this presentation in LNConf. Maybe you've seen it already. I haven't been there, but I read all the presentations. That he mentions this bunch of things that people should pay attention to when developing apps on Lightning, right? So I think that's worthy of consideration.
Absolutely. So, were there any other challenges that you would lay out there?
Well, I wouldn't say it's a lot harder or anything, but I would definitely say that you need to consider more things, and you need to consider them with sort of like a hacker's eye, or I don't know, your adversarial place. So you need to look at things, or how can people take advantage of this? I know they will, so how would they do that? And you need to do that a lot, and you need to do that constantly. So you need to have that very just conspiracy type of thinking about you if you're developing. I mean, other than that, because of course, if you just develop a random Android app that it's maybe, I don't know, like a tool or a social media thing, I don't think anyone would ever care, except maybe if you're handling some personal information, then you would be an attack target. But with Lightning, every time you're developing Lightning, if it's custodial, of course. If you're not doing custodial, that's great, and you should do non-custodial. But if you're doing custodial development and you have hot wallets, which is the case for lots of apps that people are developing, then yeah, you need to have that really a lot of thought process should go into it, and you should consider all angles, and you should be sort of on your toes about security.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so we talked about some, challenges about developing on Lightning. Were there any upsides about developing on Lightning, things that were just very easy and just very straightforward for you?
Well, I can mention, for example, my I think it was my maybe second app, this LN Hunt, right? So it's duck hunt game with Lightning, basically. So I mean, I guess this was also very popular, and people really liked it, and a lot of people played it. And of course, it's because it's such a classic arcade game, right? So people like that kind of stuff, and I like it too. I still play it, but I sort of realized that I mean, this is, again, I keep repeating myself, maybe just to get defensive, but it's, I'm not like a game developer, or I'm not sort of some sort of experienced or talented developer. So I look at I started looking at games like, well, you can just put Lightning on this, right? So it would make it a lot better, or at least a lot more fun, or it would make it a lot more challenging, right? And when I first I saw this, I was just looking at sort of arcade games, right? Because they're old and they're familiar, and you like playing them, and you're familiar with putting a coin in a machine and then playing that game, right? So this is sort of, at least that's how my childhood was. And so yeah, I figured you can just pretty much take any open source available, easy to clone arcade game, and put Lightning on it, which it will just be a put coins in to play sort of game. So I did that, and it turned out really popular, and people really liked it. And I've since actually talked to a bunch of people about they when people want to develop on Lightning, and they want to say, they come up to me on Twitter, or they say, how do you do it, and what can we do? And I just point them in this direction, right? I say, just go ahead and find something that you enjoy doing that would be much more fun, or much more interesting, with Lightning, or sorry, with payments, or with small amounts of money. Then just put Lightning on it. And like I said, since we have much better tooling now, right, with APIs and payment processors, and pretty much plug and just develop sort of libraries that you can just get started within 30 minutes, then yeah, do that and make it work. And then when you see something like that working, it's very cool. This is sort of why I do it. And I originally had on LN Hunt until about, I don't know, I think a month ago. You actually would shoot the ducks and then you would get payments, right? So you would just put like 1,000 satoshis and then you would shoot the ducks. It would go as high as like 830 satoshis, 830, and then you would withdraw it, right? I disabled it because again, someone found the hole in it and they abused the system to sort of try to empty my wallet again. So I disabled withdrawal on that one. But yeah, for what it's worth, for when it worked as it was designed to, it was a lot of fun.
So I've definitely seen several, bigger name projects, do the games and sats kind of mixed together thing. One that comes to mind is the one from Satoshi Games, and they had their kind of Fortnite clone, but with sats in it, etc. Do you think that there's some sizable market for this type of thing, of being able to spend and possibly earn sats through playing games?
I absolutely do. Yeah, I absolutely do. And yeah, Satoshi's Games, I play it a lot, and I've actually, I've been in touch with those guys as well. They're really nice guys and they're really hardworking, and they put a really great platform already. So they've sort of proven themselves, and now they have an even bigger goal, which is Light Night. And I actually I bought the I pre-ordered that game as well. I'm proud to say, and I'm looking forward to playing it. And I do think, and the reason is that every time we have these conversations, I mention my nephew. He's 8 years old. I think he's 8 years old, and all he does is just spend his time either playing Fortnite or watching Fortnite on YouTube. So gaming is a huge thing, and we all know it, and it's very it captures people, and it's a lot of fun, and it takes a lot of time, and it's a huge industry. And you already have in-game currencies, and there's no reason sats in games shouldn't be a thing. I definitely think this is sort of the evolution of things, where this is where things are going. And yeah, I mean, instead of some silly little in-game currency, I think it should be sats. And again, it should not be some other random shitcoin that's supposedly unique, or non-fungible, or non-repeatable. No, sats is what it should be. Or I mean, that's my opinion anyway.
Got it. I think I would agree with that tremendously. I think it's time to go a little bit more broad on Lightning here. What do you see? I mean, we were kind of touching on, the future of things. What do you see as being the future of Lightning? How far are things are going to progress with Bitcoin and Lightning? Are we going to get really far with it? Is it just going to become a very niche thing? What do you think?
Well, for me, I mean, again, since I've been doing this, like I said, as a hobby for a short amount of time, with just a random guy just working on it for fun, and you can see you can do a lot of things with this, and it actually turns out pretty well for the most part. Of course, it's not ideal. I wouldn't say it does everything, or it fixes everything. Bitcoin does fix a lot of things, but actually I think it will get quite widespread use. That's sort of how I see it. Again, Bitcoin is such a small thing in scheme of the whole economy, or the whole world, or the number of users, or the number of people that are involved in it. It's still very relatively small, and we are aware of that. And Lightning is even smaller within the Bitcoin, right? So we are very at the very beginning of this thing. But every time I talk to other people, I realize that yes, there are certain venues that our Lightning is a perfect fit, and it should be there. And I cannot think of any reason why it wouldn't be there. I mean, for example, I have this again. I'll mention my one of the smaller very proof of concept apps that I have, this Brick Break, right? So that's the reading paywalled articles with by paying LN, by paying with Bitcoin, right? So, I mean, right now we know that journalism is having problem, and we know that these, newspapers are having issues, and we also know that, paywalls don't work, and we know subscriptions are messy. You can get in, but you cannot get out. It's a big problem, and the perfect solution is just sitting here. The only problem is basically time. We just need time, and as Bitcoiners, we have all the time in the world, right? I mean, we're not in a hurry to do anything. Simple things like this, right? So many examples, so many things that are in, e-commerce or online, or just basically on it's if it's on the internet, it can be done with Lightning and Bitcoin, and it will be done, is how I see it. And so yeah, I think it will be a very widespread thing. It won't be in a couple of years. When I started this, and I was people were commenting, it's like, this is really cool that you're doing this. This is nice to see that it works, but this is really down the line. And I said, yeah, it is, and I still think that. I mean, after 1 year, and I still say that I know it's down the line. It's not, tomorrow. It's not going to be all of a sudden people will not pay for their, everything with Lightning, but it's coming along, right? I mean, we didn't have all these popular apps, that we have now, like Fold app, or, like right now when I go to shopping, I can just, pull out my Lightning wallet, and I can just buy the gift card, and, stack some sats, and then I do my shopping, and I can do that right now. I wasn't able to do that before, like even some months ago. So yeah, I think it's progressing, it's coming along, and I think it solves a lot of things. It has great potential, it offers value. It's not just because it's cool, it's not just because I want it to succeed, it's because it actually adds value and it removes friction. And with our protocol, evolving, we will have the AMP, we'll have channel factories, and in that at that point, you won't have to think about these things, and you won't have to, work so hard to make it work. So you'll just have your wallet, and you'll pay for things, and it will work, and it will be pretty much all over the place. That's sort of how I picture it.
Got it. I just wanted to ask a quick side question here. So you've definitely mentioned to me that, you have like a day job, so these Lightning apps are a bit of a hobby at the moment. Under what circumstances would the Lightning apps turn into your main gig?
Well, that's an interesting question, and I sort of, yeah, I guess I asked myself that as well. But like I said, I actually like my job, and I like to think I'm good at it, and I do it with a passion, and I do this for passion as well. But I guess if there comes a point where, as I mean, it's realistically, as I think anyone would say, right? So if it becomes that I make enough to cover myself and my family's expenses, and it becomes a thing that's bigger than I ever pictured, then yeah, I suppose I would consider doing this like full time, or moving fully to this. But I don't see that happening anytime soon, because I know that if we have such a marketplace where I would be making this much money, then I know other much more talented developer will come in and do things a lot better, and they'll make that money, and I'll be happy using their very cool designed and very nicely architectured apps. I'll be happy about that.
Understood there. Okay, so would you kind of just generally, if you had an open line to a bunch of general devs out there that maybe want to try something new, do you think developing on Lightning would be an interesting, maybe first jump into Bitcoin, Lightning, crypto in general?
Absolutely, definitely, and I I'm not one to hold grudges. I can tell them to just leave your, if you worked on shitcoins before, that's fine. Just leave them in your past and just come to Lightning, and you will see it's instant settlement. It's incredible. We have great tools. You have the same payment processor, same API, same webhooks, anything you might need to develop. We already have tools, and we have great, super helpful people in this community, and very passionate people. I mean, you should see the amount of work right now is going into things like LNURL, right? I mean, no one is not no one is funded here. No one is being pushed or being paid. We don't have thousands of employees like certain, shitcoin foundations, but we have people that are passionately working away on Telegram groups that are just developing things. And they do it because it's awesome, it's cool, and it helps Bitcoin, and it helps them, and it protects their financial sovereignty. So we have all these things, right? And they can just come in, and they can, whatever idea they have, they can just get started right away, and they'll have a very cool distributed network of Lightning nodes, and they'll be able to transact and finalize their transactions immediately on Lightning. And but yeah, so that's, and if anyone doesn't if anyone is looking for ideas, I have about 1,000 of them. I never have enough time to get to them. So pretty much nothing is missing. If you ask me, of course, I might be biased, but if you ask me, nothing is missing on Bitcoin and Lightning. There's a lot of cool things. There are meetups. I actually went to BitDevs here where I live last week. It's a very vibrant community, and people are just very open to help. So yeah, just as long as you want to contribute, you want to build something, you want to make something, and make it work, and see it work, and see people use it, come to Lightning, build on Bitcoin, and yeah, you'll enjoy it.
I definitely agree with all that. Do you think that in the end, Lightning will be the reason that Bitcoin scales, or do you think it's going to be Lightning and a bunch of other things?
I'm pretty sure it will be a bunch of other things. I mean, I'm not, I really like Lightning. I really enjoy working with it, and I enjoy using it. I think it's a delightful experience in my view. But I'm also realistic that some of my views, for example, I picture exchanges, right, using Lightning. But a lot of people come up with very valid arguments against this, right? So, I mean, maybe exchanges don't want to keep hot Lightning wallets that just sends back and forth thousands of maintaining thousands of channels. That I mean, that might not be the case. That might not make financial or business sense. I get that. I understand that, and I'm actually okay with, for example, Liquid, or other side chains, or they have state chains, drive chains. Again, I'm not clear on all these things because I haven't looked into them very carefully, but I understand that there are other solutions that might be more suitable for certain use cases. But for the use case that when people say instant settlement, micropayments, or everyday coffee payments, as they say, so these things are they're already working on Lightning, they're already solved. But regarding other use cases, or for example, we'll talk about maybe in 2 years time we'll be talking about digital assets, right? Maybe we'll talk about RGP, or even tokens on Liquid, or tokens on layer 3 on Bitcoin. So yeah, I'm open to that, and I'll read about it as well, and I'm sure I'll be fascinated. But yeah, Lightning is not end everything and do everything.
Okay, and I think to kind of wrap up in the last couple of minutes here, what do you see as being the ultimate Bitcoin future? Bitcoin and Lightning become gigantic. They become used, millions, if not billions of people. What do you see within that world? Do you have any kind of intuition there?
Well, not intuition, I would say. I don't consider myself very intuitive, but I would say the sort of picture in my mind is more of a kind of cyberpunk future, right? So I mean, it could be sort of like I don't know, QR codes everywhere type of future, or it could be NFCs, or it could be some sort of tattoo chips. I don't know what it will be at that time. I do know that Bitcoin and Lightning, if if we are really, if we really want to have our future, let's say, I would say bright future, a better future, in terms of our economic freedom, or so we don't keep getting debased, or our currencies and our wealth inflated away. If we actually want to see that future, that's sort of how I picture it. Yes, we will own our own keys, and we will transact with each other, and we will generate value, and we will share that value. We will buy and sell things, and it will be with the money we own, that with the money we run, right, more importantly. And it won't be because we'll just pawn it off to some guys, and some guys in the room that we don't know. They can do whatever they want with the value we create, but we will own our own future, right? So that's sort of what I picture and what I aspire to. And of course, maybe not for me, because we'll be gone very soon. But for our kids and for generations to come, I think Bitcoin is sort of the solution we have, and that Satoshi gave us, and it's sort of our responsibility to build on it, to use it, and to pass it forward, and get it ready for the next challenges in society that will surely come about anytime soon, right? So yeah, I hope we're ready for that, and I hope that will be a bright future where we own our sort of destiny.
I think I really like that. But I think for the final question, I would ask, what do you think would be the biggest roadblock between where we are now and that idealized future?
Sloth, right? Laziness, I would say. I mean, path of least resistance, right? So people are lazy. People don't like hard things, me included. I mean, people, of course, I mean, that's sort of the natural order of things, right? So when you have something, you put it on like you have a living thing on the floor, it will go through the path of least resistance. People are, I'm hoping, this is my hoping, my hopeful part is that hoping humans are different. Humans will overcome this laziness and sloth, and I'll just pawn this off to some other guy, and I'll choose the easy way. I hope that we will move past this, and I hope that we will be better, that we will take our own destiny into our own hands, and with our own money and with our own value, and we will live that life instead of a really, really dark future where everything and everyone is controlled, and this dystopian thing that we are sort of seeing previews of it at the moment. But yeah, if we don't take matters into our own hands, then I think it will be either very bad or much, much worse. So that's the only roadblock. Otherwise, we have the tools, right? So we have this great tool of freedom, and we just need to use it and have it. But yeah, I think sloth is one. Greed is number two, which is explained by shitcoins, but sloth is number one, I think.
Nicely said. I think I agree with that tremendously. So that's a great way to end the podcast there. Do you want to go ahead and let the listeners know how they can find you on the internet and on Twitter and all the good stuff?
Yes. So you can find me on Twitter. It's Chitlake, but it's spelled like Citlayik. So Chitlake at Twitter. And then you can find me, Kriptode.com is my website. I have a bunch of services there. Check them out. And if you have any feedback, let me know. I'm on Telegram as Pseudozach, so you can add me or ping me there. Other than that, yeah, I'm quite easy to find. Yeah.
All right, perfect. I really appreciate you joining me on the Lightning Junkies podcast, Zach.
Thank you. Thanks for having me, Chaz.
Boom. Episode complete. That is another episode of the Lightning Junkies podcast completed and served up to you. Hopefully you learned something. Hopefully you took away something from this particular podcast. If you did, I would not mind if you chipped in Bitcoin or Bitcoin over Lightning to my crowdfunding campaign. You can find that at crowdfund.lightningjunkies.net. You can also tip me on tipping.me, Bottlepay, and LNCast. Those links are in the show notes. If you are unable to support this show financially, you can also support the show in other ways. Those ways include subscribing to the show, leaving a review, sharing this post about this podcast on social media, telling some of your shitcoin friends about the podcast would also count as well. In the meantime, I think I'm going to end the show right there, but just keep in mind that I'll see you on the Lightning Network.